Welcome to the Igniting the CEO Within podcast, where we interview successful, high-level professionals to discover lessons they've learned throughout their career that help ignite that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes or so. Our show is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has developed Launchpad, which offers an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors. After completing the Launchpad program, you'll lead your own peer advisory circles, helping other CEOs and entrepreneurs excel in their professional and personal lives while providing a community of accountability, challenge, and support. If you'd like to learn more, go to quaidcircle.com. I am absolutely pumped to get to hang out with Maureen Metcalf today. She's the CEO and founder of the Innovative Leadership Institute out of Columbus, Ohio. Maureen, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, I am delighted to be here as well. What an honor to get to hang out with you.
Oh, this will be a blast. This will be a blast. Look, I don't want to waste any of our time. You get to hang out with a lot of really cool and interesting people. And in your work, you see all kinds of leaders. And I would love your thoughts on what separates the really outstanding leaders from all the others.
You know, I've written books on this, and I'm going to go slightly off script to start with, and we may go
Perfect.
down that rabbit hole. um, in an era where people either love what's happening politically or they hate it, this idea that we are grounded in our values and our ethics. And I'm not commenting on which ones are better or worse,
Sure.
but leaders who don't have a solid grounding, who are chasing ego, money, success, however they define it, without also being clear about what integrity looks like, can get far afield pretty quickly. And I want to say, looking at the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, it appears, I have no personal involvement, so I'm doing sense making from a distance. It appears that there were some people who hung out with him to get financing, to move forward valuable projects, and they got caught up in the swirl of whatever you call that. And if we are, it just seems like a cautionary tale that with social media, it doesn't take long for things to surface and for people to have recordings and videos. And, unlike when I grew up and we did all kinds of crazy stuff and we didn't all have cameras in our pockets. So we were kind of off the hook. That's not true anymore.
Yeah, I agree with all that, and including doing the crazy stuff when cameras weren't on our phones. But so how do you start? How do you start to coach people to understand that integrity is something that's really important in the leadership side, number one, and then number two, how to carry that throughout your life? And I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is acknowledging that none of us are perfect, right? And that we're going to do dumb things, whether there's cameras or not. And we're going to make choices that aren't right and all that stuff. And so understanding that there is this realm of imperfection in every human being that's out there, how do you start to wrap that around and by helping them identify what integrity is, what their values are, how did they live it, 90% of the time, if they can do that?
So I talk about leadership as a system. So organizations have their own systems, cultures, leader behaviors. Humans have their own values, behaviors, and we create cultures. And so to me, it's important that both the organization has a strong view of what does ethical look like? What do
Mhm.
we stand for? Do we engage in stakeholder capitalism? Is it profit at any cost? Where do we draw ethical lines? And I am not the arbiter of what is ethical. I have my own views for my own company. it's not my place necessarily to tell you what is ethical unless it crosses one of my lines, and then I may just not choose to work with you. So working on both the organizational and the individual front, some leaders may choose to leave their organizations
Hmm.
if and again, we can use things in the news, OpenAI versus Anthropic. We're seeing companies, as AI is evolving, draw different lines for different reasons, and we'll see how those play out.
Hmm.
But the impacts are significant to our society with what happens with AI and things like surveillance. And at what point can you not walk back some of these things?
Yeah, taking a tangent to that, or something along those same lines. There there are you can do whatever you want, right? This is still
Mhm,
America. You can do whatever you want, but there are ramifications for that. And if you're going to choose to be an unethical leader, you the people that follow you are probably going to be similarly unethical, and the ones who are ethical are probably not going to follow you where you go, and that those choices are going to manifest themselves in the performance of your company at some level, right? I mean, that's a general. I'm generalizing what you
mhm.
said.
It's probably why you and I both do what we do, because you can see it from a distance. And I've worked in client companies that are incredibly principled, and it shows in their employee retention, in their productivity, in their client experience, and the way they partner with their clients to navigate difficult situations, which we all have.
Hmm.
I've also seen clients, and I assume you have as well in the CEO space, where a leader is behaves in ways that we would consider questionable. And that behavior may make sense to them given their upbringing, values, whatever, fill in the blank.
Hmm.
But the results of the organization demonstrate that level of challenge. And I'm thinking of one. I was working with a young man this morning talking about his last boss and his current boss and how would he navigate something. Last boss was brilliant as a human being. Current boss, not a brilliant human being. He's just behaves in ways that are questionable.
Hmm.
And this young man was then talking about how to navigate a complex situation in an environment whose values don't align with his own.
Hmm.
And my guess is if that continues, this very talented young man will probably not stay. And to me, that's really the measure of retaining your people and retaining your clients. Are you treating them ethically? Using the general definition that most of us agree what ethics looks like.
Right. Right. Yeah. Again, there are consequences for your actions, right?
Mhm,
If you're going to act unethically, it's inevitable that you're going to drive away certain people, right?
mhm.
Some may be
Yep.
attracted to it, but in general, that tends to be a pretty short term way of going about things, right? You could have success by being unethical in the short run, but at some point it'll catch up to you. And how and maybe you've seen this and maybe you haven't, but I'm guessing with the number of leaders that you've been in front of, how have you or have you seen a situation where you've helped somebody who had been acting unethically to kind of turn it around and understand that, because of the way they were brought up, it's not necessarily considered unethical, but what you're doing is unethical. How have you seen an opportunity where you've had the opportunity to turn somebody around and see kind of the error of their ways or whatever, and turn them around to make make it successful?
So let me give the example of the young man I was talking to this morning. I happen to know his prior employer and his current employer. Again, prior employer, just decent to the core. Current employer doesn't share the values I share.
Yeah.
And the young man was struggling with how do I navigate this situation? And so we talked about, what would your prior boss do? What would your current boss do? How would your kids look at you if they saw what you did? He was navigating a situation with a female employee. If this was your daughter, how would you want her to be treated? And that question over time for men has been a very interesting question, because we don't always treat our young men how to work with female employees. But for anyone who's a dad, they're kind of instinctively protective of their daughters.
Hmm.
And so once we shifted to that, he didn't have to think too hard about how to navigate. Now, he may have needed to navigate the language because he doesn't talk to this female employee like his 12-year-old.
Right.
But but the I respect and care about you, and for that reason, I'm giving you feedback. Because he's, like many men, and I don't wanna generalize, he's
Sure.
great with dudes, right? He learned that very well.
Hmm.
He just never learned how to navigate professional female colleagues, and again, where he's in an industry where there are fewer women. There are other industries where men have more female colleagues than men, and they may struggle to deal with their male colleagues.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, I'm going to switch the subject just a little bit.
Mhm.
Still staying on leadership, but as you look forward, what gives you hope for the development of leaders?
Mm. I am pretty excited about AI, and I realize there are lots of bumps along the road. But what I'm seeing people be able to do, and the information, the data, and the sense making of the data is just phenomenal. So I'm seeing senior executives be able to make quicker and better decisions. So decision velocity,
Hmm.
not just fast, but better.
Hmm.
And so they're leading differently because they've got good data on hand. That then also frees them, because they're spending less time on some of this, for some of the bigger sense making, looking at trends, looking at how AI will upend my business. Where do I have opportunities that I never had before? And I'm looking a lot at where do we have, as a leadership firm, opportunities that just didn't exist pre-AI,
Hmm.
and really trying to marry the best sense making, decision making, governance, strategic planning with just good human creativity, compassion, care, engagement. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for leaders to also get better. So, and I can and I realize some of these are tricky subjects, but say I'm giving feedback to an employee who's challenging, and I wanna just drill, practice, practice, practice. I can do that with an AI companion, and I can tell it, "Be mean, cry, be nice,
Hmm.
raise something that my shortcomings," and just I can get better quicker. And I think many of us played video games and learned from things like SimCity, right? That you can just
Right.
take out all the roads and see what happens. You
Uh-huh.
can do all kinds of stuff that you don't have to practice on humans. You practice it in machine land, and we're more effective. We have the opportunity to be way more effective.
Yep. Yep. No, I love that. That's really good. Hey, this has been a really great conversation. And would you do me a favor? Would you share what a typical engagement with you and Innovative Leadership Institute looks like, and then how can people get a hold of you?
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So often people come with a question like, our long-term business, our leaders, our current executive team is aging out, stepping back. We want to make sure our next level is ready. And um, I look at not just putting people in leadership training and coaching, but also how do we modernize the systems? We're talking about AI and some of the other changes in the world. So it's not just putting them through a training program, but how do we look at the organizational strategy, um, operating model?
Hmm.
And how do our next generation of leaders carry this business forward in a different context than our last generation? So it's a combination of leader development and system modernization that really positions organizations to navigate the next round of shifts because we're going to have to be more agile. We're going to
Hmm.
have to work differently, and we just need to be equipped for it.
Yeah, great, great. How do people get a hold of you?
My email is Metcalf, made the acquaintance of a small cow, Metcalf at innovativeleadership.com.
I love that. You've used that once or twice, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
Maureen, this has been a fantastic. We could have gone on for hours. I think it's been a blast. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Mark. I love that we get to just have a conversation,
Yeah.
and you've made this incredibly fun and easy to share.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks so much. All right, y'all. We've done it again. We found another amazing leader to share insights into the journey to the CEO seat and all that makes you successful. Really appreciative of Maureen for hanging out today. As we wrap up, I want to remind you that Igniting the CEO Within is sponsored by Quaid, a nationwide community of CEOs and entrepreneurs. Quaid has created Launchpad, which provides an opportunity for experienced executive coaches to become licensed circle directors and significantly impact the lives of CEOs and entrepreneurs. To find out more, visit quaidcircle.com. Until next time, keep igniting that CEO within you. I'm Mark McFatridge. Thanks for listening.